Oh, hi there, kids. It's been a long time since I've watched that Paul McCartney movie, Give My Regards to Broad Street. And with having so much time on my hands these days, I thought I should give it a spin. Well, I did, and I haven't watched this movie in years, maybe even a decade or more, and I think I can see why. Let's go through this movie and find out, perhaps, why I haven't watched this thing in quite a while, and probably you haven't either, okay? First off, Give My Regards to Broad Street was put out in 1984. Oh, hey, look, Paul McCartney wrote the screenplay. Isn't that nice? Well, the trouble is, Paul McCartney doesn't really know how to write a screenplay. In this movie, he's daydreaming a lot, and on his way to the office, he finds himself racing around in this hot car, which is pretty cool. And it's full of all sorts of electronic gimmickry. And here it shows what his day is supposed to be about. Once he arrives at his meeting, he finds that the record company is in a quandary because the tapes to his latest album are missing. And if the tapes aren't found, the evil Mr. Big Ears will take over the company. Which, if this guy is supposed to be a villain, couldn't Paul have thought up someone else or someone better? He doesn't really speak during the whole thing, and all he does is sit there and look menacing. If Paul wanted to have a villain to the story, he could have done a lot better. Such as one of the Batman villains. Oh yeah, this would have been a whole lot of improvement for sure. However, we've got Mr. Big Ears, and he really doesn't seem to be much of a menace at all, but hey, what can you do? This is the villain we're stuck with. Thanks, Paul. Anyway, with the tapes being missing, what does everyone do? Well, everybody just seems to forget it. And Paul goes on with his day as usual and goes down to the recording studio and decides to cut a few songs. And Ringo is there, and they give him a drum kit that's way too big for him. Come on. But look, there's George Martin and Jeff Emmerich in the control studio. Now that's kind of cool. But Paul goes on just strumming away and recording songs. And in the meantime, Ringo's looking for something to play because everything is in acoustic and drums aren't really needed. So, this is Ringo's big joke of the moment. After the recording session, Paul goes down to the movie studio and films a video for one of his songs, Ballroom Dancing, which in reality turns out to be more like ballroom fighting. Oh well, it's a nice little video really, but what about those tapes? Oh yeah, he seems to have forgotten about them. It's in the screenplay, so forgetting about the tapes that are so important to his career, he films another music video. Very stylistic. And I think he's influenced by Michael Jackson a bit by having some imposter try out his moves on his video. In the meantime, someone seems to be on the run with the tapes. The police are in hot pursuit. It doesn't matter. Paul decides to sing more songs. After all, this is what self-promotion is all about, as written in the screenplay by Paul McCartney. Paul sings more songs, and then, oh no, could this be another villain? This giant that shows up? Oh, but the giant is a friendly giant. No, not like that friendly giant. But Paul finds time to sing some more songs again. Geez, isn't he worried about those tapes? Oh yeah, he wrote the screenplay. In the meantime, Paul seems to forget about everything completely and finds himself in a Victorian fantasy. Like, what the heck is going on here? What about those tapes, Paul? Oh. Well, the Victorian fantasy seems to go on and waste time, and oh my gosh, there's the villain, Mr. Big Ears. Paul is upset. Paul is very upset. And then Paul finds himself in a winter wonderland. What the heck? What is this screenplay all about, Paul? Just as sudden, Paul finds himself in town, menaced by the giant, and sees someone with the missing tapes. Oh no! Get in pursuit! Mr. Big Ears is there to cause a distraction. But suddenly, Paul is in his hot car again, racing towards a meeting with this guy? Why? Oh, according to the script, it's time filler. But he does have a monkey.
Haven't you always wanted a monkey?
That little bit of unexplainable footage is over, and Paul finds himself at the Broad Street station. Ah, get it? Broad Street. Oh yeah, that's the name of the movie. Yeah, makes sense. And meanwhile, Mr. Big Ears is back at the office thinking, ha ha, we can't find the tapes. I'm taking over the company. Like it really matters. Company takeovers are nothing these days. But oh my gosh, Paul has found the tapes, and they're still intact. Amazing! Happy days are here again. The record company won't be taken over by Mr. Big Ears. Paul calls his friends to tell everyone the good news. We've got the tapes, and Mr. Big Ears is none too well pleased. I'm sorry. A happy ending for all. Except for Paul. You see, the movie was budgeted at $9 million, and at the box office made only $1.4 million. But hey, the movie's soundtrack sold lots, so it was the one bright spot of this whole movie mess. All the songs from the movie are on the record, and it sold quite well. So there is a silver lining to all of this. So in the end, what do I think about this movie? Well, being that it's been years since I've watched it, and this is the first time in quite a while, obviously, you know, like the scenes with the music and the videos and all that, those are okay, but there's no story. Where's the story? This is supposed to be a movie. If it was just a bunch of videos strung together, well, that's really what it turns out to be. There's no real story here. Everything's just wrapped up quite easily, and the whole mystery of the missing tapes isn't really thought of at all. It's like an afterthought, and the villains in it aren't very menacing at all. Like, gosh, I don't know. So anyway, I think this movie's going back on the shelf where it will collect dust for another dozen years, and I'm going to go on to something else more satisfying and entertaining like the Beverly Hillbillies. Okay.